Okay, let's see, ladies and gentlemen, here we are back out. This time we outside.
Yeah.
John, we forgot to turn the camera off. John, I forgot to ask you about your 3 summers in Basel. You were working for what company over there?
Ciba-Geigy.
Ciba-Geigy. What do they do?
Well, they are a big chemical company, and I was working in the pharmaceuticals division. And they're the 3rd largest pharmaceutical maker in the world. They also make fertilizers and plastics and dyes and photography film and all sorts of things.
Ciba-Geigy has a big place over near Burlington, Greensboro.
That's right. In Greensboro, they make agricultural chemicals.
I see.
Fertilizers.
Okay. And now, what were you doing with them?
Well, I worked in the pharmaceutical division. What's called the in German Pharmapolitik, or the public policy department, I guess you would say. And I got this job initially when I was at Princeton in the public affairs school. And this is my 3rd summer working in this department. This department is the one that deals with government regulation. Pharmaceuticals are heavily regulated in every country, and so the companies need departments to deal with that sort of thing.
So now you were, I know summer before this past, when you were doing a project on what was the subject? Something about AIDS.
My first summer I did a short study, and not that big a deal, but on the impact of AIDS on the pharmaceutical industry, the disease of AIDS. And it turned out to be mainly a case study of how the drug made by Burroughs Wellcome, AZT, affected that company. It's to date been the only FDA-approved drug to treat AIDS.
How it affected the
company.
Burroughs Wellcome?
How the company handled its development and its
well,
sales, and they were applauded, of course, for developing the drug, but it cost so much money, and the company seemed a bit callous toward the AIDS patients when it publicized the drug.
Did the people who chose you for that know that you had lived for most of your life in the city of Raleigh, where Burroughs Wellcome is?
No, they did not. In fact, I chose the project myself.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's great. And then, of course, you were living then in Greenville, where they make
the actual drug.
Yeah, right.
That's right. No one knew that. I didn't even know myself.
Now, this past summer, what were you doing? This '89.
This summer, I worked mainly on a large project that Ciba-Geigy started, but other companies are involved in, called the RADAR project. And RADAR is an acronym, and it's sort of a clumsy one. It stands for Risk Assessment of Drugs, Analysis, and Response. And it's an initiative whereby companies hope to get involved in and shape the debate in major industrialized countries over when drugs are approved and when they're withdrawn. And it involves research both on the scientific side, that is, how drugs affect people that take them, and what sort of adverse reactions people get from them, and on a more communications side, that is, getting the word out to the news media, to the general public, to physicians, on how to think about drug risks and benefits. One example is when a drug is banned, often people don't realize that a lot of people are hurt by banning a drug. Or else they wouldn't have been taking the drug in the first place if it didn't help them somehow.
In other words, it helps a whole lot more people than it hurts, and the people it helps are then deprived of the
That's
help.
right. And this is not to say there aren't many cases where drugs should be banned, but the industry at least believes that there are cases where drugs have been banned where maybe they shouldn't have been. And the industry has an interest in keeping drugs on the market, but they argue that the public has an interest that hasn't been realized before in keeping certain drugs on the market.
Okay. Now, while you were living in Basel there, because you had already spent 1 semester of your Duke years in Vienna.
That's right.
And so did you get back over to Vienna?
I did this past summer, yeah.
But not the other 2 summers?
The first summer I did also, yeah. Not the second summer. First summer I traveled too much, I guess. I went to London, I went to Rome, to Paris, to Vienna, and some in Switzerland. The second summer, my big trip was to Berlin.
I guess I'm close enough for you for this mic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then this past summer, I took a trip to Vienna and then some smaller side trips into France and Germany and Switzerland. Didn't go very far.
Well, that's great. Now, Basel is located on the northern edge of Switzerland where Germany meets France, right?
That's right, where the three countries meet.
Right on the Rhine.
Where the Rhine bends northward.
Right. We ought to have a map here. So we recommend to all of our millions of viewers that you get out a map of Switzerland. Look at Basel. Okay, it's a German-speaking city.
That's right.
And now France was celebrating its bicentennial, or the bicentennial of the French Revolution, and Bastille Day. Did you get into France on Bastille Day?
I went to Strasbourg with a friend, and we met some other friends there. Strasbourg is only, I think, 2 hours away by train. It's in a part of France that has various times been a part of Germany instead of a part of France. So it's kind of interesting to be there.
Yeah.
That date. I think at the time of the French Revolution, Strasbourg was probably not a part of France. But it is now. And they didn't celebrate in the grand fashion that the people in Paris did. But it was still nice. It was a fireworks show.
That's great. 200 years after, and you were there. We were thinking about you being over there. We thought maybe you were in Paris.
I tried to go to Paris, but everyone I had planned to stay with decided they weren't going to go either. So I couldn't. I had nowhere to stay, so I couldn't.
Now this year, speaking of Paris, you flew direct from Raleigh-Durham Airport to Paris.
That's right.
On the American Airlines new non-stop.
Yes.
To those of you who may be viewing, wow, let's look at this. What has it got written on it, John? Is that a radio station, a television station? Oh, it is? Oh, that's from Greenville. That's the East Carolina University Medical School and Pitt County Memorial Hospital ambulance coming in to pick up somebody to take them to the regional center over there in Greenville. Some very sick patient will be going over on that. How about that? You know, the East Care plane, the helicopter crashed, and they lost everybody, I think, when we were living in Greenville, and we had a community service at Jarvis Memorial. The place was packed, and so we have when I say East Care, I feel kind of close to them.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Basel. When you didn't go over on a thing like that, you were getting ready to say you went over on what kind of a plane?
It was a Boeing 767 American Airlines flight.
And it now goes direct.
That's right, once a day.
And you landed at Orly.
Orly in Paris.
And then what'd you do to get to Basel?
I flew from Orly to Basel. And coming back, I had to fly from Basel to the other Paris airport, Charles de Gaulle, and then had to get to Orly in Paris. That was kind of a hassle, but I did it and got back to Raleigh.
That's great. And by the time your bags got to this country, they had to be taken to that door right over there. You can't see it, ladies and gentlemen, but they were late getting in. What time did the gal bring them?
Must have been 11:30.
About 11:30.
Sunday night.
Sunday night, and you got in Saturday at 6 something. Okay, that's great. And you got into Hungary once, I believe. Did you tell us that?
Well, 5 years ago I went to Hungary.
Oh, that was while you were in Vienna.
Yeah.
And Czechoslovakia. Did you get to Prague?
I did, yeah. Budapest, Prague. Last summer I went to East Berlin just for a day.
Hey, how about that?
And,
did you see the wall?
I would like to go back now. It seems to, especially Poland seems to be going through a lot of excitement and change. So it would be nice to be there, but I assume I'll go back sometime.
Now, when you were in Basel, where did you live?
This summer I lived with a family, a retired couple. Their name was Wagner, and they have a small townhouse, and I lived upstairs in a room.
And last year?
Last year I lived with an old woman who was 89 at the time. Mrs. Frau Bolliger. And the first summer I lived with some other students in a house owned by a man named Mr. Fuhrer.
How about that?
Yeah, each time I've lived with families.
That's good. How's your German?
Well, it's not great. It's gotten better each summer.
That's
I was
good.
there, but
It's a good way to learn it, I guess.
Well, the problem with Basel is that they speak this dialect, Swiss German, which is so different from High German that ordinary Germans don't understand it. So it's not a written language, and it's difficult to understand. So I haven't really improved my German in Basel.
I'm getting closer so that we won't be drowned out by the East Care chopper.
Right.
Okay, well that's great. So you think you'll go back to Basel?
I don't think so, no.
Right.
Maybe as a tourist.
Yeah,
okay. Not to
okay.
work.
Well, it's been a good job. You've made good
It
money, and they pay you where over and back.
That's right, yeah.
And
no complaints.
And especially with the evolution of the European economic community into the what do they call it now? Still the European.
Well, the European community. Yeah.
Yeah, they are getting closer to possibly a federation. Do you think?
Right. Yeah, but Switzerland's not a part of that. But
right.
It's good to be close to where it's happening.
Yeah, and you may write on that someday.
That's right. I might do that.
Okay. John Malloy Owen IV, and his getting ready to begin his second year.